So into this nexus marches the hero of our story, Mitt Romney. Okay? You may know Mitt Romney as a presidential candidate, but I know him best as the governor of Massachusetts. And as governor of Massachusetts in the mid-2000s, he actually proposed a way to try to draw on the best of both sides of this debate. And what he proposed was something that I call incremental universalism, which sounds like a new religion, but is not. What he proposed was incremental means let's let people keep their health insurance if they like it. Let's build on the existing system. Universal means let's get to universal coverage. So how did he do it? What he did was he built what I like to think of as a three-legged stool. Okay? The first leg of the stool is to address this problem, address the information problem by insurance regulation. Tell insurers that they have to offer health insurance to anyone at the same price. So you can't deny someone because they're sick, and you can't charge them more because they're sick. You can charge old people more than young people. But even if I come in with a bad cough and looking like hell, you got to still offer me health insurance at the same price someone comes in looking healthy. So that insurance no longer has this adverse selection market failure, that anyone can get insurance at a fair price. Okay? So actually, Romney did this. Massachusetts was one of 7 states that did this in the mid-1990s. They said to their insurers, you have to offer insurance at the same price to anyone who comes in, regardless of their health. Okay? Can anyone tell me what effect that would have on the insurance market? If we pass that regulation on insurers, what effect do you think that would have on the insurance market? This isn't theoretical. 7 states tried it and had the same effect in all 7 states. Actually 5, only 5 in the end. Okay? What effect would this have on insurance markets? If I pass that rule saying you're an insurer, you used to charge sick people more or kick them out. Now you can't do that anymore. You charge everyone the same. Yeah?
The general price go up.
Well, the general price, suddenly as an insurer, I'm worried because I get discriminated. I got to charge more. I could raise the price, or I could just say, forget it. I'm not going to offer because I can't tell anymore. I'm going to lose my shirt if I keep offering insurance in a world where I have to charge people, sick people, the same price, or I'll raise the price a ton. And in fact, what happened is in every single state, the insurance market collapsed. Okay? Here's how I like to think of it. Now, I'm not going to ask how many of you bet on sports. I'm sure none of you do. But imagine you bet on sports. Okay? Here's how sports betting works. Okay? There's somebody called a bookie. The bookie's job, the bookie's the person who places the bet. Now, bookies, if they're good, they want to take no risk. They want to equalize. So let's say you're betting the Patriots against the Eagles. Okay? And you know that if you just say, hey, people bet the Patriots against the Eagles, everyone's going to bet the Patriots. Right? And then the problem is, if the Patriots win, you lose money. If the Eagles win, you make a ton of money. If the Patriots win, you lose money. You don't want to take that risk. So what you usually set a point spread. You say, look, if you're going to bet on the Patriots, you only get paid off if they win by this much. I think what the final spread was for the game, like 10.5 points or something. Okay? You only get, so basically, and you set that point spread such that you get the same number of bets on both teams. That's your goal. Why is that your goal? Because you get rid of risk and you just make your profit off the transaction costs. That's your goal. You want to basically get the same risk on either side and just make your money off transaction costs. Well, insurers are bookies. Okay? They want a nice predictable distribution of risk and make their money off the top. Now, let's say you said to a bookie, we are going to take bets on the Patriots-Eagles game. It goes off at 10.5 and there's equal bets on both sides. But we're going to reopen the book at halftime and let anyone bet again at the pregame odds. Well, then bookies will be like, forget it, because we know by halftime what's happening. Now, it wasn't true in the Patriots. The Patriots game was a little uncertain halftime. That's not a good example. But other games, let's take Seahawks-Vikings. Mice and Minnesota, and we were watching that game. The spread was pretty even. I think the spread was pretty even. Maybe Minnesota's even favored. At halftime, Minnesota's losing 28-0. It's clear it's over. Well, if they reopen the bet at that point, everybody throws the money in Seattle and the bookies get killed. Well, that's what these regulations did to insurers. They said, look, you have to take on all comers at the same price. Well, all the sick people buy health insurance and the insurers get killed. And that's why these markets collapsed. That's why what Romney proposed was the second leg of the stool. He said if we're going to make all insurers offer insurance fairly, we have to have an individual mandate that says that all individuals have to buy health insurance. Because then insurers can be sure they can rely on the law of large numbers. If they know people are buying if they're sick or healthy, then they can predict what the cost will be. The problem with just the first leg of the stool is only the sick might buy, and then you lose money. But if you can be guaranteed that the sick and the healthy will buy, then you can charge a price where you break even. So that was the trick of Romney Care in Massachusetts, was individual mandate allowed insurers to function in a world of this insurance regulation. Okay? Do people understand that? Now, the problem is, you're still not done because you can't mandate people buy something they can't afford. So when we were designing this, and I worked with Governor Romney to design this, when we were designing this, okay, health insurance costs for a family $12,000. A family at the poverty line had income of $22,000. You can't ask a family to spend 60% of their income on health insurance. That's not going to fly. That's why I need the third leg of the stool, which were subsidies to make health insurance affordable for the lowest income families. So we talked about the poverty line earlier in this class. What Romney Care did was it said if you're below 3 times the poverty line, which is close, a little bit below average income in Massachusetts, we will give you subsidies to offset some of the cost of this plan. If you're very poor, we'll make it free. If you're near poor, we'll make it a little money and we'll sort of rise it with income. That's not important. The important part is the third leg of the stool is to make insurance affordable. So subsidies to make insurance affordable. And that completes the package. And the key thing why I call this a stool is if you pull any leg away, the whole thing falls apart. You pull the subsidies away, you can't have the mandate. You pull the mandate away, insurance regulations don't work. You pull insurance regulations away, insurers will still try to just get the sick guys. Okay, get the healthy guys, I'm sorry, exclude the sick guys. You need all three to work together. And that's what we set up here in Massachusetts. Okay, I was very proud to be part of that. And we set that system up. Look, I am probably the most biased person in the world on this topic. But if you look at the objective facts, it's worked pretty well. So the uninsurance rate in Massachusetts fell by about 2/3, fell to 3% compared to a national average of 18%. And the system was widely popular. Okay, support was always about 2/3 in Massachusetts. And as a result, this gained a lot of attention, and a lot of other governors, particularly sort of middle-of-the-road Republican governors like Romney was, wanted to try this. And probably the highlight of my career was going out and working with my childhood hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to do this in California. The coolest moment of my life was when you're waiting for him in the room before you meet with Schwarzenegger, they actually have the sword from Conan the Barbarian. And you could hold the sword from Conan the Barbarian. It was super cool. Got a picture holding the sword. And so I worked with him and said, we will cover the uninsured in California. It was very exciting. And, but it turned out that it didn't work out. And then I worked with a lot of states that never worked out. And the reason was because it was just too expensive. And it was clear if this was going to happen, the federal government would have to get involved. And that's what led to the Affordable Care Act, which is the national version of Romney Care. It's really sort of, as someone said, it's sort of Massachusetts with 3 more zeros. Okay, it's really the national version of the same plan. Same idea. Regulate insurance so insurers cannot discriminate against the sick. Okay, mandate people have insurance coverage, but offer subsidies so that insurance coverage is affordable. And that's the basic principles of the Affordable Care Act. That's what Obamacare is. Okay, question, yeah.
In Massachusetts, how was the individual mandate enforced?
The individual mandate is enforced through a tax penalty. So if you did not buy health insurance, you had to pay a penalty, which amounted to about half the cost of buying health insurance. And it worked very well. Okay, other question about how this works, about how Obamacare works, the Affordable Care Act works. Yeah?
Why wouldn't you make the tax penalty the full price of not?
That's a great question. What's the right penalty? Once again, let's think about marginal costs and marginal benefits. Okay, you shouldn't necessarily have to make the penalty. Think about your decision about whether to buy health insurance. So if the penalty's the same, it's unambiguous because you can pay the money and get something, pay the money and not get something. But if the penalty's less than that, why might you still want to buy health insurance? Let's say the penalty was less than full. Why might that still be good enough?
Like the difference in cost is, like what you get from the insurance is still greater.
Because you're, what?
Marginal benefit.
Risk averse. Because you're risk averse. So you wouldn't necessarily need a penalty as large. Once again, this is where the principles we learned here can help us figure this all out. You wouldn't necessarily need a penalty as large as the premium because you're risk averse. Okay? Now, what's the right level? Probably, quite frankly, the level in the Affordable Care Act, which is $700, is probably too low. In Massachusetts, more like $1,200. That seemed to work. Okay, so it's probably a bit too low, because the other thing here is politics. And politically, it was hard to make the mandate penalty as large as some of us recommended. Okay? Other questions about this? Yeah?
What are other differences between the Affordable Care Act and the Massachusetts version?
There's basically, given the time left, there's essentially nothing that merits the time I would spend to discuss it. It really is very, very similar. It really is probably the most important difference is it's less generous. So the subsidies in Massachusetts are much more generous than nationally. They're probably about half as generous. So the big difference is it's a less generous law than we have here in Massachusetts. That's probably the biggest difference. Other questions about how this works? Let me get a little bit weepy for a second and recognize why this is so important, okay? Because you have to remember, the US was the only country in the developed world where literally you could not get insurance because you were sick, okay? It is amazing when I travel internationally and people would say, like, what the hell kind of system do you have that, like, insurers can discriminate against sick people? How does that make sense? So fixing this was the single biggest accomplishment of the Affordable Care Act. To basically be in a society, starting last January 1st, where sick people can get health insurance at affordable prices is an amazing accomplishment, and that was the biggest piece of the law.